Part 1.
You will hear a conversation between a guest and the receptionist at a hotel. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5. Good afternoon. My name is Kelvin Jones. I booked by internet yesterday.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jones. Welcome to the Armitage Hotel. Can you spell your first name for me, please?
Certainly. Kelvin.
Thank you. Do you have your booking number? Or perhaps you printed out your confirmation?
Yes, of course. I don't have the printout, but I did remember to note down the number. It's OOL2381420.
Thanks. OOL2381420. Oh, I see you've stayed with us before.
Yes, on several occasions.
And do you still have the same vehicle registration number? HQW5919?
Well, no. This time I have the company car.
And what is the registration number?
Oh dear, I can't remember. Hang on a minute. Here it is on the keyring. HUV 3331.
Thanks. HUV 3331. Now, today's the 21st of May, and I see you've booked a deluxe room on the 5th floor, room 501.
Really? I booked a deluxe room? I usually only ever have a standard double room.
It's the off-season, Mr. Jones, and we've upgraded you.
How nice. And what does the deluxe room have? Is it as good as a suite?
Almost. It has all the usual, plus a spa bath, fully stocked bar fridge, a king-size bed, and a balcony.
Is there a view from the balcony?
Yes.
Is that a view of the bay?
Yes, and a glimpse of the Blue Lagoon as well.
Very nice. I hope it'll be warm enough to sit out there.
We can't guarantee the weather, Mr. Jones, although we do try to make your stay as comfortable as possible.
Thank you. Now that you mention comfort, is it possible to have some extra pillows, please? I have a sore shoulder, you see, and I need to prop it up at night, or I don't get any sleep.
Well, you'll find pillows on the bed, of course, and we can send up a couple more later.
Well, I'd appreciate that.
One more thing. You paid by credit card over the internet. Can I see your credit card, please?
Oh, of course.
And some photo ID?
What would you like? Driver's license?
Yes, that's fine. You're staying for 5 days, is that right?
That was the original plan, yes. But the conference has been cut short by 2 days because the keynote speaker is ill. So I'll be going home on Wednesday.
So that's just 3 nights in all.
Afraid so. Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
Is there anything else I can help you with?
Actually, there is. The conference is in a building called Chancery Chambers, but I don't have any idea how to get there.
Oh, that's the funny-shaped building on the corner of King and Richard Streets. It's quite straightforward, really, and only a few minutes' walk. Look, I'll show you on this map.
Good. A map. I like to follow a map if possible.
Right, well, step out the front entrance of the hotel and you're on Hobb Street. Head south on Hobb Street towards Gorse Lane and take the second on the left onto Vickers Street West. Go all the way down the hill past the Mexican Cafe on your left, the Rebel Hostel on your right, and the big church on the corner of Allen Street.
Oh, I think I know the one. It has a huge steeple.
Yes, you're right. When you get to the bottom of the hill, you'll have to cross over the main street.
What's the name of the main street?
Mill Street.
Mill Street. Ah, yes, there it is.
Cross the main street and continue on to Vickers Street East. There's a big bank next to a bookshop on the corner. Go up the hill towards the entrance to the park.
I've heard it's very beautiful.
Oh, yes. Well worth a look when you've got some free time. Anyway, don't go in the park. Turn left into Kitchen Street. You'll walk past Bowen's Bistro. Actually, probably the best place to get a good lunch at a reasonable price. After Bowen's, take the second left into Baker's Lane. It's a very short street. Then take the first on your left onto King Street, and you should see the Art Deco Chancery Chambers building a bit further along on the corner of Richard Street.
Oh, thank you for that. I'm most grateful.
That is the end of part 1. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to part 1. Part 2.
You will hear a recorded message by an employee of an investment society giving information about savings and investment options. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 13. Listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 13.
Welcome to the information line of the State Investment Society. Why would you choose to put your money into an investment society and not a bank? Well, SIS offers everything you'd expect from a bank, but the difference is we're a cooperative. We're 100% owned by our customers, people like you, and that means we always put your best interests first. You won't see our profits going into large foreign-owned finance corporations. No, you'll see them coming back to you and your local community. As a cooperative, we work hard to keep our fees competitive and absolutely minimal. Even better, we can advise you about ways to avoid fees. Here are some suggestions. Firstly, we recommend you carry out as much of your personal banking as possible with us. We won't charge account fees unless your account becomes inactive for some reason. See? No unnecessary fees. Secondly, if you maintain certain minimum account balances, you won't have to pay any transaction charges for transferring money between any accounts that have the same customer number, although there may be some service charges that apply, such as the establishment of automatic payments. So, how can we help you?
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 14 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 14 to 20.
Let's look first at savings options. We can give you 3 options. Our internet account earns you interest from your very first dollar deposited. You don't have to maintain a minimum balance, and you earn a good interest rate from the start. Interest calculated daily and paid into your account monthly. You always have immediate access to your money by using the internet, text or telephone banking. What's more, there are no account or transaction fees. With our Stairs Savers scheme, the more you save, the higher interest you earn. Again, there's no minimum balance, but as your balance grows, you'll earn higher interest rates. There are 3 interest tiers or steps, plus bonus interest. Interest is calculated daily and paid monthly. Now, what about access to your money? You are free to make as many withdrawals as you like, but if you restrict them to 1 a month and your balance increases over that month, then you'll earn that bonus interest. With our simple saver scheme, access is available anytime and we don't impose penalties for withdrawals. This scheme has 1 interest rate, no minimum balance, and interest is calculated daily and paid annually at the end of the financial year, the 30th of June. So, you can see that savings accounts are ideal if you're starting from scratch. Do you know you can open a savings account with as little as $10? They're usually the best choice for short-term financial goals. For the longer term, we recommend some kind of investment account. Let's take a look at our investment options. Starting with the safest, the most secure, low-risk option is a basic term deposit, starting with a minimum deposit of $1,000. Interest is calculated daily, but you can choose whether to have it paid out monthly, quarterly, or at maturity. What we recommend if you really want to see money grow is having interest compounded quarterly. You'll only get access to your funds when your term deposit matures, so be sure to think carefully about the amount of time before you lock it away. It could be anything from 6 months to 5 years. Bonds are generally a longer commitment, but they may bring better rewards in the future. There is a minimum deposit of $5,000 and interest is calculated daily. You may choose to have interest compounded quarterly or paid out quarterly. And, of course, you'll have access to your money when your bond reaches maturity. Looking really long-term, there is our retirement fund, which is, of course, a savings plan for retirement. There is no minimum deposit, but the good news is that you can choose to contribute a certain percentage of your income before tax is paid on it. As for interest, well, you choose a particular type of fund which has a different level of return depending on the level of risk. And access? Well, not before you turn 60 years old. As I said, it's a retirement scheme.
That is the end of part 2. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 2. Part 3.
You will hear 2 students discussing a science project. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Bob. Thought about the science project yet?
Which one? The presentations are scheduled for next month.
The experiments that you and I are working on to demonstrate density, buoyancy, and the compression of gases.
That'll be complicated.
Well, it's not supposed to be. It'll be part of the Making Science Simple series that's being showcased next year, and we have to be ready to demonstrate by the end of next week.
Oh, well, simple, you say?
Yes, not just the concept, but the materials too. We have to use cheap, readily available common items. Expensive lab equipment is out of the question.
I remember something about using recycled or throwaway items if possible. Anything portable that we can bring into the lab.
That's right.
Well, any ideas for the project?
What about the classic Cartesian diver?
Is that the same as a Cartesian devil? The invention named after the famous French physicist René Descartes.
Yes, a long time ago, superstitious people labelled it that because they couldn't comprehend the scientific principles it demonstrated. They thought it was black magic.
How shall we do it?
By keeping it as simple, transparent and economical as possible.
So, to start with...
Open your pencil case and let's have a look. You haven't got any...
Any what?
Paper clips.
Oh, there are lots of them in the bottom of my bag. They slip off my papers and collect in the bottom. Look, here's half a dozen.
But they're all big metal ones. I want little ones. Small, vinyl-covered multicoloured ones.
Oh, I've got one or two of them too.
Great, and if we look around, especially on the floor, we're bound to find a few more. See? Here.
What else do we need?
A small rubber band.
Well, I've got one of those in my pocket.
No, not that kind. Let's go and ask Tara.
Why?
Those really small coloured bands for making ponytails are ideal.
Hey, Tara?
Yes? Have you got any spare rubber bands, like the ones you fasten your hair with? Oh, heaps. A whole packet full. Help yourselves.
Terrific. So far it hasn't cost us anything. What now?
Let's go and rummage through the recycling bins beside Joe's mini market.
What for?
We want a 2-litre plastic soft drink bottle with lid.
Hey, I draw the line at sorting through other people's rubbish, and we're also not likely to find one with a lid.
Well, go into the store and buy 2 litres of soft drink.
What flavour?
It doesn't matter what kind of drink you get. Just make sure it comes in a clear PET bottle.
Where are you going?
To the cafeteria behind the resource centre.
What for?
I'm after some straws.
I can get them from the shop when I buy the drink.
No, I've seen theirs. They're the waxed paper ones. We need clear plastic, and I know they've got them in the cafeteria. I'll also see if I can get a tall plastic cup from there.
Good luck. Meet you back here in 5 minutes.
Maybe longer because I want to go over to my locker and get a wire coat hanger.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30. Right. Have we got everything now?
I think so. I've got extras of most things, so don't worry if this doesn't work first time.
OK. Assembly. Step 1.
Take a straw and fold it in 2. No, not like that. These plastic ones are quite hard to fold. Try pinching it in the middle. That should make it easier to bend. You may even have to bite it, but not too hard. You want a sharp crease, but you don't want to break it.
How's this?
Good. Now, second step. Wrap a rubber band several times around the ends to hold them together.
Then?
Add weight to the diver.
So, This straw is the diver.
Yes. See how I'm pulling the outside end of a paperclip out a bit? Now, hook the part I bent out into the rubber band that's holding the straw together. No, not that way. It'll fall off. That's right. Turn it over. Now, hook 2 or 3 more paperclips on. It's hard to say how many we'll need. The idea is to get the diver to be almost all the way submerged, but not quite. We can put it in this tall cup of water to test it.
What do you think? Too buoyant? Add another paperclip?
I think so. OK, on to the next step. Have you got the empty bottle?
Not quite.
What do you mean?
Well, it's not quite empty.
Pour some into this cup for later. Good. Now, fill the bottle with water all the way to the top and we'll gently lower the diver in. Great. Now put the cap back on.
And then?
The final step is the demonstration of our experiment. You will see that when I squeeze the bottle, the diver sinks, and when I let it go, the diver rises.
When you squeeze, the air bubble trapped in the straw compresses and the water rushes in, making it heavier, so it sinks. And the reverse happens when you release the bottle. What's the coat hanger for?
Oh, that. If our experiment didn't work the first time and our divers stayed on the bottom, we'd have had to fish it out with a piece of wire or a hook of some kind. It's best to be prepared.
That is the end of part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 3. Part 4.
You will hear a lecture on volcanic activity and its effect on the atmosphere. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40. Good morning, everyone. In these environmental science lectures, I guess you're all used to hearing about global warming. Well, I'm here today to talk to you about one particular volcano and its effect of global cooling. I'll begin by going back a little bit in time. Towards the middle of 1991, the second largest volcanic eruption of the last century occurred in the Philippines, not far from the capital city, Manila, on the island of Luzon. Mount Pinatubo belongs to a chain of volcanoes in the area, and this was by no means its first eruption. There is evidence of eruptions from approximately 500, 3,000 and 5,500 years ago. The events of the 1991 Mount Pinatubo eruption began in July 1990, when a magnitude 7.8 earthquake occurred 100 kilometers northeast of the Pinatubo region. The sleeping giant was reawakened, but few people had any idea of what was in store for them. In mid-March 1991, many earthquakes were experienced around Mount Pinatubo, and this is when volcano scientists, or volcanologists as they are called, started their investigation of the mountain. Before the disaster, thousands of people lived in very close proximity to the mountain, and on April 2nd, small explosions from vents near the crater dusted their villages with ash. This resulted in the order for evacuations of 5,000 people later that month. Earthquakes and explosions continued to harass the residents, and on June 5th, a Level 3 alert was issued for 2 weeks because of the possibility of a major eruption. However, the appearance of a large amount of lava protruding from the mountain on July 7th led to the announcement of a Level 5 alert on June 9th, indicating an eruption in progress. An evacuation area within 20 kilometers of the volcano was established, and this time 25,000 people were evacuated. On the following day, Clark Air Base was evacuated, and the danger radius was extended to 30 kilometers from the volcano, resulting in the total evacuation of 58,000 people. On June 15th, just after midday, the eruption of Mount Pinatubo commenced and lasted 9 hours, causing numerous major earthquakes due to the collapse of the land at the top of the mountain and the creation of a huge caldera. What's a caldera, I hear you say? Well, it's obvious really. With a huge eruption such as this, where enormous amounts of material have exploded into the air, the summit falls into what is now an empty chamber, and thus forms a large crater. As luck would have it, as the eruption was taking place, a tropical storm was passing just to the northeast of Mount Pinatubo, bringing a lot of rainfall to the area. The dust and cinders that had been thrown up into the atmosphere combined with the water vapor from the storm to cause a rainfall of tephra that fell across the whole island of Luzon. Most of the people who perished during the eruption did so because of the weight of the ash collapsing roofs and killing the occupants of the houses. If it hadn't been for that passing storm, the death toll would certainly have been much lower. But that's not all. Besides the ash, Mount Pinatubo expelled between 15 and 30 million tons of sulfur dioxide gas. Can you guess what happened next? Yes, the sulfur dioxide mixed with water and oxygen in the atmosphere to become sulfuric acid, which is a major contributor to ozone reduction. The eruption plume from Mount Pinatubo reached high into the atmosphere, attaining an altitude of 34 kilometers, and the resulting aerosol cloud spread around the Earth in 2 weeks and had covered the planet within a year. During the years 1992 and 1993, the ozone hole situated over Antarctica reached an unprecedented size. The cooling effects of this cloud over the Earth were remarkable. It reduced global temperatures considerably. In the United States, for example, we experienced our 3rd coldest and 3rd wettest summer in 77 years during 1992.
That is the end of Part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to Part 4. That is the end of the listening test. In the IELTS test, you would now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.